Excuse me, you feeling cold?
Let me break this down for you because Cole Palmer has been playing chess while the world's been playing checkers. Back in March, Palmer did something strange. Out of nowhere, mid-match he ran straight into the crowd. No explanation, just disappeared into the stands. Social media had a field day. Fans joked that he ran more outside the pitch than he ever did on it. Some even hoped he was running straight to Saudi Arabia. The judgment came fast, the harshest label a player can: get washed, done, finished. But what if that was just part of the plan? Because just a few months later, when Chelsea stepped onto the pitch for the measly Conference League final, their entire reputation was hanging by a thread. And Palmer, he was at rock bottom, 3 assists in his last 30 games. The numbers were bad. The vibes were worse. Anthony, yes, Anthony the GOAT, was this close to ending Chelsea's run. Then suddenly, Cole Palmer turned into a different beast. In 5 minutes, he delivered 2 assists, something he hadn't done in over 270 days, completely flipping the game on its head and saving Chelsea from humiliation. Just like that, a cold-blooded resurrection. But he wasn't done. Next came the FIFA Club World Cup. Palmer hadn't scored an open play goal in 6 months, minus 28 matches of silence. But in the biggest game of them all, up against PSG, he pulled the exact same trick. Out of nowhere, he unleashed one of the greatest final performances football has ever seen. So ruthless, so unexpected, that PSG players literally lost it. At full time, tantrums, chaos, embarrassment. And that raises a question: is Cole Palmer messing with our heads? Or did fans just jump to conclusions way too fast? Because here's the truth: while people were busy clowning him, no player in Europe, none, was creating more goal-scoring chances than Cole Palmer. Even during this so-called terrible season, he's only 3 open play goals and 3 assists shy of what he did last year, when he was being hailed as the most exciting young player in the world. So yeah, people forgot. Quickly they forgot how this season actually started. It all began with Enzo Maresca. From day one, there were doubts. Would his system work with Palmer? Some believed it would. After all, Maresca coached him at Man City's academy. They won trophies together. But others weren't so sure. Maresca was also Pep Guardiola's assistant, and many felt Pep's tactical obsession had stifled Palmer's development. Would Maresca do the same? But Palmer had other ideas. Just 2 games into the season, he bagged the Premier League Goal of the Month and made history as the first player to win the award 2 months in a row. He then went into the dressing room, came back, and dropped 3 assists in 14 minutes. If it weren't for a couple of freak hat-trick performances that month, Palmer would have taken home Player of the Month too. Then came September. Game 1, a perfect assist for Nicholas Jackson. Game 3, Palmer scores 1 himself. End of the month, Brighton versus Chelsea. Chaos. Chelsea were down. Palmer stepped up. In 9 minutes he scored a penalty, a top corner free kick, and a near-post rocket. That's a hat-trick, the 5th fastest in Premier League history. But Palmer wasn't done making history. Brighton pulled one back. Palmer answered. 4th goal, all before halftime. Let me repeat that: 4 goals in the first half. Something no player in Premier League history had ever done. It was England's greatest halftime performance, and still somehow people slept on it. Even Maresca said after the match, Palmer scored for... But honestly, he could have had 6. It already hit the post. He had a goal ruled out by VAR. Every time he touched the ball, it looked like danger. He was so on fire that when he stepped up for a corner, the commentator joked, "Do you think he could score from there too?" The only thing he got wrong all game, a missed 1-on-1. And even then, all the commentator could say was, well, I guess he's human after all. But is he? Because here's what most people didn't realize: he did all that while playing so deep. He looked like a right back that match. He wasn't even meant to score. His role was to create. And he still delivered the most complete performance of the season. That's not luck. That's not chaos. That's Cole Palmer. Misunderstood, underestimated, and absolutely unreal. So next time you think he's quiet, he's not finished. He's loading.
And then there was that game, the one where Cole Palmer deserved at least 3 assists, and somehow walked away with none. It started with an incredible first touch pass to Noni Madwick, who fired a rocket off the post. Moments later, Palmer delivered an almost identical ball to Nicholas Jackson in the second half. Why then? The unthinkable Jackson missed an open goal. No pressure, no keeper, just vibes. It was one of those matches where everything Palmer created got wasted. And yet, this match was prophetic, because it exposed something deeper, a trend that would follow him all season long. By the end of the campaign, Mohamed Salah would top the league for progressive passes received, the forward most trusted and found by his teammates. Palmer, he ranked last among Chelsea forwards, just 0.05 progressive passes per 90, away from being the least pass-to attacker in the entire squad. Let that sink in. The guy creating everything ... was being given almost nothing in return. But that didn't stop him after that match. Maresca publicly called him the best player in the league. And the league seemed to agree, handing him the long-overdue Premier League Player of the Month award. Just days later, Palmer assisted Chelsea's equaliser against Forest and, through a fan vote, was crowned England's Men's Player of the Year, vindicating him after Gareth Southgate benched him through most of the Euros and still, with barely any minutes, Palmer had been England's most decisive player at the tournament. But even that wasn't the peak. Only a few days after winning England's top honour, Palmer scored the match winner against Newcastle. And while November brought a quiet patch, no goals or assists in 3 matches, December told a different story. Against Aston Villa, he dropped a long-range screamer that left the keeper frozen, lifeless on his line. That goal meant one thing. Cole Palmer had hit 30 Premier League goals in just 46 matches, second fastest in Chelsea history, behind only Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank's 41. But here's the kicker. Even Hasselbank had 7 fewer assists in that same stretch. Take legends like Eden Hazard and Didier Drogba. Even they needed 88 and 67 matches, respectively, to reach 30 league goals. Even Hazard, in his absolute best run at the club, needed 76 games and assists. He only had 2 more than Palmer at that point. But Palmer wasn't just scoring, he was pressing like a machine. In that Villa game, he won the ball off Tielemans repeatedly, forcing mistakes, until Emiliano Martinez panicked and gifted Chelsea a free kick just a meter from the goal line. Still, the drama wasn't over. In the very next match, Palmer scored, again, tying Hasselbank's record for the most goals scored for Chelsea in a single calendar year. Then came the defining moment. Chelsea versus Tottenham. Chelsea were down 2-1. They needed a win to stay in the title race. 4 days after tying the record, Palmer stood over the penalty. No nerves, no doubts. He buried it. That goal didn't just save the game, it broke the club's record. Most goals in a calendar year. And if you're thinking, it's just a penalty, think again. That strike also meant Palmer had now tied Yaya Toure's Premier League record for the most penalties scored without ever missing, but he wasn't done. Later in the same match, another penalty. This time, the weight of 2 records on his shoulders. Break Yaya Toure's record, secure 3 points for Chelsea, close the gap at the top of the table. And how did he do it? He hit a Panenka goal, the kind of penalty that mocks pressure. Chelsea climbed to within 3 points of first as Liverpool drew to Fulham. Paul Merson, in post-match analysis, summed it up perfectly. Palmer's performances this season are more impressive than in his debut campaign, and honestly, he's not wrong. Cole Palmer isn't just having a breakout season, he's rewriting Chelsea history, all while being doubted, ignored, and overlooked. So next time you see him quiet, just know he's about to break something again. Maybe a record, maybe your expectations. Just when the cult of Cole Palmer was reaching all-time highs, just when fans were declaring him Chelsea's new golden boy, everything suddenly began to unravel. That stunning goal against Fulham meant nothing. Chelsea still lost. That equalizer against Crystal Palace, only good enough for a draw. That genius dummy move versus Bournemouth, same story draw. In just a few weeks, Palmer went from being the hottest name in English football to going for straight matches without a win, and Chelsea was sliding. They had dropped to 5th place, and things were about to get a lot worse, because out of nowhere, that Palace goal would be his last open play goal for 6 months. Sure, a couple games later he managed a deflected cross that found its way in. Then he forced an own goal in the next match. But none of that mattered when Chelsea got knocked out of the FA Cup by Brighton of all teams. And if you thought that was bad, the contrast between then and 5 months earlier was brutal, because just 6 days later, Chelsea faced Brighton again, this time in the return leg of the same fixture that had launched Palmer's legendary 4-goal half. This time, Chelsea got destroyed, 4-0, from history makers to victims. And when Marco Asensio dunked on them the following week, it meant Chelsea had gone 12 games with only 3 wins, sitting just 2 points away from completely missing out on European football. At this point, people were already asking what happened to Cole Palmer, but they had no idea how much worse it was going to get. Because in March, just as Chelsea began turning their form around, Palmer suffered his most humbling moment yet. In the first league game of the month, he stepped up to take a penalty and missed for the first time in his career. Shock, silence, even the fans couldn't believe it. After the match, Maresca tried to explain. Palmer wasn't even supposed to play. He'd been out for 2 days with a fever and, hilariously, diarrhea. That's why he sprinted off the pitch straight to the locker room after being subbed. Makes sense now, but still, it was the end of a run for a player who had missed just 1 match in over 18 months, also due to illness. It wasn't just a bad day, because right after that, Palmer picked up his first ever injury, ruled out for an estimated 3 weeks, and with Chelsea fighting for a Champions League spot, they needed every single point and every ounce of Palmer's magic. Suddenly, the media turned. Pundits and fans who once praised him were now asking, was last season just a fluke? Was Cole Palmer only ever good because of penalties? Some even argued that his entire campaign had been inflated by just 2 explosive games, the 4-goal destruction of Wolves and the hat-trick against Brighton. The narrative flipped fast, from breakout star to potential fraud. But was it true, or just another case of fans forgetting the full story the moment the headlines changed? As Cole Palmer's form dipped, the narrative turned ruthless. Critics didn't just say he was underperforming, they said he was padding his numbers. They claimed that Cole Palmer had truly gone cold. Some pundits pointed to fatigue, overwork and crushing expectations, and you could see why. This was the guy who, according to Maresca, insisted on playing through a fever and stomach illness just because he felt responsible for dragging Chelsea into the Champions League. But not everyone bought that. Others argued defenders had simply figured him out, and statistically, that held weight. Palmer was being fouled nearly twice as much this season compared to the last. He was now a marked man. Meanwhile, Chelsea fans had their own theories. Many blamed his teammates, especially Nicholas Jackson, and again, they weren't wrong. Between December and February, Palmer led all of Europe in chances created, yet not a single one was converted into a goal. Jackson alone had wasted 7 of the 32 Palmer created. So while the media painted a picture of decline, a growing group of loyal fans believed it was all just bad luck. In fact, if you exclude the penalties, Palmer was still scoring at the same rate as last season and creating the same expected assists. The quality was still there, the results just weren't. But, in my opinion, the most convincing argument pointed at Maresca. Was it all Maresca's fault? Because Maresca's system, slow, possession, heavy, calculated, it clipped Palmer's wings. It didn't unleash him, it leashed him. By the time Chelsea faced Tottenham again, Palmer had made it back just in time. And yes, he assisted the winner with a picture-perfect cross. But that momentum didn't last. Just days later, they were humbled by Leverkusen in Europe. And when reporters asked Maresca what was wrong with Palmer, he brushed it off. It's all mental, not tactical. Since the start of the season, nothing's changed. Same manager, same style, same club. He gets chances every game. He's just missing the goal. Nothing more. But I disagree. A manager is never played. The team didn't magically switch from Pochettino's chaos to Maresca's control the moment he sat down on the bench, so it only makes sense that Palmer gradually got worse as the tactics pulled further away from what made him shine. And if you need proof, just look at the graph of Chelsea's expected goals from fast breaks over time, which is exactly the kind of play Palmer thrives in. Under Pochettino right before the end, it peaked on under Maresca. Well, at the end of the day, Maresca couldn't pretend it wasn't his doing. The numbers were crystal clear. When Chelsea played direct transitional football, Palmer was on fire. But under Maresca, that fire started to dim. Sure, they kicked off the season with energy, but the further they leaned into Maresca's slow, methodical, possession-based system, the further Palmer's performances dipped. And it wasn't a coincidence. Maresca hated the chaos. He called Chelsea's fast-paced games basketball matches. He'd literally applaud when players slowed things down, and openly said he wanted them to learn how to win ugly, which sure might work for grinding results. But it cut Palmer short. He knew it. We knew it. And deep down, so did Maresca. So the question becomes, what changed at the end of the season? How did Cole Palmer go from drowning in this system to demolishing people? Well, the first signs came against Liverpool. He finally scored. Yes, it was a penalty, but more importantly, you could feel it. He had clicked. In his own words, I wasn't too bothered. I knew it was going to come. And it did. Suddenly, Palmer wasn't relying on those fast breaks anymore. Now, he was dictating tempo within the slower game Maresca demanded. He was learning to wait, to control, to strike with intention, not instinct. That match, he hit the post, created 4 chances, and was involved in all 3 goals. Chelsea walked away with 3 crucial points that would ultimately secure their Champions League spot, and that was just the beginning. Because even in the middle of all the chaos and noise, Palmer still earned a PFA Player of the Year nomination. But if that was the moment he CLICKED, then the Conference League final. That was his coming-of-age moment. The stakes were sky-high, the lights brighter than ever. Exactly how Palmer likes it. In that Conference League final, Cole Palmer was everywhere. Gone was the kid who relied on breakneck counters. This was a player who could build tension, slow the rhythm, control the tempo, and still explode when it mattered most. The reward, a Man of the Match award, a standing ovation, and a record, the first player since Marcelo to register 2 assists in a European final. But that wasn't the peak. It was the beginning of something much bigger. Because next up was the Club World Cup, and for Chelsea it meant everything. Had only qualified because of that 2021 UCL title. Since then, for different managers, a full ownership change, a nearly unrecognizable squad. But that didn't faze Palmer. He stepped into that tournament like he owned it. An assist in the round of 16 proved he was officially back in business. In the quarters, a perfect touch, a clinical finish, and suddenly, his dry spell was over. He had scored, he had won, and Chelsea was back on the rise. Then came the semi-finals. Maresca made a bold call. Started Palmer in central midfield. Why? because now he wasn't just a weapon, he was the conductor, he was the system, and maybe, just maybe, PSG should have known better, but they didn't. Maresca unleashed both sides of Cole Palmer, the slow burn creator who could dissect parked buses, and the counter-attacking assassin who punished high lines. It was poetic violence. 2 goals, 1 assist, another man of the match performance, a 4-0 demolition of the so-called best team on earth. And when the dust settled, the Empire State Building lit up blue. Chelsea were world champions again, and Cole Palmer was finally hot again, so maybe now it's time to start worrying about Chelsea all over again.